Well, after a truly fascinating September with at least 69 stations in the UK recording the warmest September day on record, we are off to the races with the month of October. We actually did see a temperature back on Sunday of 24 Celsius at Wisley, which was the warmest start to an October in 12 years. And that is, of course, going back to the 1st of October 2011 when the temperature reached an astonishing 29.9 Celsius at, I believe it was Gravesend in Kent. And we do have a very, very active situation going on at the moment. We did have the warmest October day on record for Spain. I believe it was one of the warmest for France. And we could see temperatures reach the mid to high 20s towards the end of this week. Also, we could have a slap of true autumn chill following the surge of warmth towards the weekend coming up here. This is the current temperatures across the European continent. We've got a little taste of what is inevitably going to come eventually across the far north. You can see here temperatures hovering just above the freezing mark, but down across Iberia, mid 30s is in control. Got a little bit of a north-south split in the UK with relatively fresh conditions. A blustery day up here across particularly northern portions of Scotland. Temperatures pegged back at only 9.2 Celsius with a wind chill of 5.4 at Loch Scarnock. We've got 18, 19 Celsius across the southeast of the UK. Ireland and Northern Ireland, you can see here temperatures mid to high teens versus the mid teens across the north. Fairly uniform temperature profile. Looking at the current infrared satellite image, you can see here that we do have some clear skies across Iberia, hence why the temperature into the very warm mid-30s. We've got a frontal system now across the heart of France. That is introducing something a little bit fresher. But notice here that we've got Philippe here over the Lesser Antilles here. And of course, we've also got a lot of traffic here across the central Atlantic here. A lot of cloud cover, a lot of weather. And that weather, folks, is heading towards the northwest of the British Isles as we step through the next several days here. Looking at the chart here, this is off weathercharts.com, and you can see what I'm talking about here. Area of low pressure to the north, high pressure to the south. We've got that squeezing isobars indicating some fairly stiff westerly winds. Lots of shower activity across the board as well. This is the current satellite image indicating that we've got those strong winds. You can see here the ripples as the winds bounce over the hills of the Pennines, the North Welsh Mountains, and also the southern uplands. You can see these little bumps in the clouds here, but you can see this mess to the west and southwest of the UK and Ireland. That is heading our way, and the problem that you've got is, of course, the area of high pressure, quite strong weather systems riding the northern flank of that area of high pressure, and with a fairly slow movement of the actual frontal system itself, that's when totals are going to really mount up. Now you can see here as we play through the second half of this afternoon and into the evening here, we've got this first little pulse of moisture moving through, some heavy persistent rain, still gusty winds across the northwest during the overnight period tonight here. And then, of course, we've got another system here over the central North Atlantic. That is going to bring a spell of heavy persistent rain. So we've got a yellow warning over the western side of Scotland for the next 24 hours. Heavy persistent rainfall moving in tonight and likely to linger through a good part of tomorrow. But it's in all eyes after that. This feature then moves up around the top of that area of high pressure. Look at this kind of conga line of heavy precipitation. We've got this is coming out of a fairly warm source, so a lot of moisture within the atmosphere available. As this moisture bumps into the western hills of the UK and indeed Ireland, we're going to see rainfall totals mount up. 50, 60, locally 100 millimetres is possible in parts of the west portion of Scotland through the next 24 hours. And then an additional 100, 150 millimetres of rain possible across parts of Skye, Loch Aber, Northwest Highlands, Outer Hebrides over the period between Thursday afternoon, evening, and then through the first half of Friday here, but there is going to be a lot of rain falling in the western side of Scotland over the next few days or so. So, of course, that is going to cause some issues here. You can see that moisture running in during the first half of Friday here. But look at the connection here all the way down well to the south of the Azores, getting transported this kind of conveyor around that area of high pressure. Notice the centre of the high now kind of shifted over to the central portion of Europe here. But of course, when you've got this kind of situation developing here, area of low pressure, drawing that warm, humid air up from the subtropical Atlantic here, riding along that boundary, pretty stationary as well, and therefore we are likely to see flooding. Now, it has been quite wet across even northern areas. We got off to a very dry start to the summer across the northern half of the UK, concerns of drought, etc. But as we've pressed through the course of the summer and now into the first half of autumn, it has turned around, and that is exactly what was forecasted here on marfowinweather.com way back during the spring, even late last winter. I said that we would see the turnaround taking place from the 3-year La Nina into the El Nino, and the year would turn increasingly wet during the mid and second half of 2023, and that looks as if it's materializing quite a bit here. So I'm quite pleased with the overall ideas that I've had, generally speaking here. But we do have the warmer air now getting drawn northwards here as the dynamics change. That area of low pressure over the North Atlantic kind of slide just slightly further east, forces the area of high pressure a little bit further east over the continent, and then that means our winds are then getting drawn in from a south to southeasterly direction. Exactly how warm it gets late week and into the weekend remains open to question here. Notice the area of low pressure centered over southern Finland here. We've got a lot of messy conditions, very windy conditions, quite unsettled across the board here. A very large area, heavy snowfall if you notice on the northern side of that low. So if we then go on to the 850s, you can see here what's taking place here. So you can see a confliction here between that area of low pressure over the Atlantic, trying to draw that warmth up through Iberia, France, and into the southern UK. Meanwhile, that area of low pressure over southern Scandinavia, over southern Finland, is trying to then counteract that warmth coming up from the south with that cold air coming down from the Arctic here. So quite the interesting situation developing on the models for 18 UTC on Saturday, 7th of October here. Two areas of low pressure, conflicting air masses in play at the moment here. So we've got that southerly flow trying to lift north, but that area of low pressure over southern Scandinavia, over the Baltic Sea, is trying to drag down the first push of true Arctic air. So what wins out? That is, of course, the big question. So we go back to the here and now. We've got that relatively fresh conditions racing across the UK at the moment here with high pressure to the south. The warmth very much bottled over Iberia. It then increases over the next few days according to the latest 850 temperatures off the GFS chart. There's the push of slightly milder conditions. Notice the area of low pressure over the North Atlantic. That is what tries to pull that warmth up from the south. But meanwhile, the area of low pressure, like I've said, is trying to drag Arctic air south as well here. Look at that contrast actually between 0 Celsius and plus 15 Celsius. That is a very impressive contrast at 850 over the UK here. So let's actually look in a little bit more detail with regards to the UK view here. Fascinating stuff, very complicated stuff. It's very hard as we go through week 1 into week 2 and beyond to try and nail down exactly what this forecast is going to do. There is a lot of confliction, a lot of energy, seasonal shift. The jets becoming stronger, more cold is becoming more available further north versus the still residual heat that is stuck in the subtropics here. So you can see here off the GFS chart into the early and mid portion of Saturday, that is an incredible contrast across the UK between -3 Celsius and 16, even 17 Celsius across southern England and Wales here. So we'll wait and see what happens. A lot of things to play for, and it will be very fascinating to see how. Check out the temperatures at 2 meters during Saturday afternoon, 1800 UTC. We've got single figure highs across Scotland versus mid 20s potentially southeast East Anglia on Saturday afternoon. So very, very interesting stuff going on at the moment here, folks. There's no question about that. Let's have a look at the ECMWF and see what that's showing. We'll go back to the bigger, broader picture and see what it's showing with regards to the 850s versus what the GFS is indicating here. So it really does represent the complexity of forecasting, especially at this time of the year. Modelling is struggles to see the differential, where to move the heat versus the cold. This is as we press through the second half of the week. There's that area of low pressure. Notice the position slightly different. We've got not one but two areas of low pressure over the North Atlantic, one to the northwest of Scotland and one well out over the central North Atlantic here. The position of these lows are critical. Notice something very important. You've got the warmth coming up from the south. Meanwhile, we don't have that low like we see in the GFS over the south coast of Finland here, and therefore the ECMWF is showing the 15 Celsius isotherm getting lifted all the way up into Scotland. So that is a very different solution to what the GFS is indicating. If we look at the overview chart, we don't really have that deep area of low pressure over the Baltic Sea here. So a very different solution to what the GFS is indicating. What wins out is going to be the big question, and that is a very big difference for only 3 or 4 days away. I know 3 or 4 days, even in the world of meteorology, is a long time, but that is a fascinating difference compared to what the GFS is indicating. Warmer air getting lifted all the way up into Scotland here, and if we look at the UK version, the UK view, you can see here that the temperatures at 2 meters will look quite different to what the GFS is indicating here. So Saturday afternoon, we've got a lot milder conditions. Don't have a particularly warm air mass, if you notice here, even across the southeast. Well, there we go here. So this is 1500 UTC. We've got 20 Celsius on the Murray coast, and we'll have got maybe about kind of low to mid 20s further south here. Look at what the GFS was indicating, single figure temperatures versus 20 Celsius. So you've got a difference at 2 meters of potentially 12 to 14 Celsius in terms of the maximum temperatures on Saturday afternoon. Very complicated stuff, difficult to pin down, and we are going to have to watch this situation very, very carefully indeed here. Finally, let's have a look and see what the extremes have taken place across parts of Europe. So if we look at over the mainland of Europe here, 2 new October national records have been broken today in Europe. This is according to Thierry Goose. Austria 30.3 Celsius, Poland 29.2 Celsius. Remarkable warmth for this late in the season. There's no question about that, and the warm waters are doing a lot with regards to driving the heat. Even across the eastern portions of Canada, we've had record-breaking temperatures for early October in parts of Ontario. Another historic day in France with temperatures 35.9 Celsius. But the most reliable station, Navarons, I don't know what the pronunciation exactly is, but with a temperature of 35.8, only 0.4 Celsius from the October record for France. I believe Andorra reached a new record, as well as Spain in recent days. This is Maximiliano Herrera. Exceptional heat yesterday. Portugal and Morocco, 37.7 Celsius. 16 stations was above 36 Celsius, by the way. Pretty impressive stuff. And a temperature of 38.2 at Montoro. That was a new Spain record. Andorra broke its national record, 31.7 Celsius, 873 meters above sea level. Pretty impressive stuff. We'll look at winter in the next couple of days, so stay tuned. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you again tomorrow with more. Bye for now.